You just finished watching Paul Thomas Anderson's movie One Battle After Another, and you're wondering how it relates to the source text that inspired it, the Thomas Pynchon novel, Vineland. But maybe you don't want to wade through one of the most difficult authors in American literature to find out. Well, here we go. Now, the most jarring difference, although maybe not the most important one, is the relationship between Perfidia and Colonel Stephen Lockjaw. In the movie, Perfidia is this extremely strong character, and in the course of one of her acts of rebellion, she runs into this military guy who on the exterior is this extreme alpha male, but once he sees her, he yearns to submit to her. In the book, that relationship is exactly reversed. Ferneege Gates is a radical, and she is part of this radical film collective, but she's there because she needs someone to tell her what to do. She has a thing for guys in uniform. She has a thing for alpha figures, male or female. And once she meets Federal Agent Brock Bond, a man who does not care about her and who wants to exploit her for his own ends, she falls completely under his spell. Now, in both cases, this character does end up going into witness protection. But in the movie, you saw she went into it out of selfish reasons. She wanted to get herself out of jail, and then she jumped as soon as she possibly could. In the book, she goes basically because Brock told her to, and she lives there in this kind of sad way for most of the rest of her life. Brock Bond / Stephen Lockjaw, on the other hand, meets in some ways a similar end. He's sold out by the very people who he's trying to support, the shadowy figures in the US government. But in the book, that happens because as he's running this raid, Reagan suddenly pulls the plug on his funding. In the movie, as you saw, he is murdered by a group of people that he wants desperately to join called the Christmas Adventures Club, which brings me to the second big difference between the movie and the book. In the New York Times book review, Salman Rushdie wrote that this is that rarest of birds, a major political novel about what America has been doing to itself, to its children, all these many years. And you can read this book as almost a series of anecdotes in which the lives of those children are revealed. You get to dive into all these different subcultures. You find a punk band that's masquerading as Italian wedding singers. You meet a group called the Thanatoids that have this extreme sort of like disbelief in death or fear of death. You find a federal agent who has to go to tubal detox because of his addiction to the television screen. Find a scientist who is investigating Godzilla. There's a cult of female nun ninjas, which are kind of hinted at in the movie. There are all these crazy subcultures involved. None of that is really in the movie. Instead, what you do see is a subculture on the other side of the coin. Instead of seeing the subcultures of America's dispossessed, you see the subcultures of the people who are in charge. In the movie, that is the Christmas Adventurers Club, which is this like kind of sad, racist, but extremely rich cabal of white guys that sits around in their suburban basement and tries to plot their control of the universe. And this is a club that, in the movie, Stephen Lockjaw very much wants to join. In both One Battle After Another and in Vineland, there's a question as to who Willa's true father is. Is it her hippie dad? Or is it actually this federal agent who also had an affair with her mother so many years ago? Now, in the movie, this question is very firmly resolved. Stephen Lockjaw is Willa's biological father, and yet she tells him, I don't care. Bob raised me, he's my dad. In the book, it's not quite so clear, but in my mind, after multiple readings of this book, everything is resolved in the opposite direction. Prairie looks at her father's face and sees herself reflected in it and says, you know what, Zoid is my real dad. And yet she finds herself wondering, my dad's a better guy, but would Brock Bond have been a better father? Would he have given me the structure that I need to make my way in the world? In a way, Vineland reminds me a lot of Brothers Karamazov, also a book I've read a bunch of times. Both books are about what happens when your mother abandons you and your dad is a total waste of space. How do you find some sort of meaning in a world like that? Where do you turn to for morality and guidance? This book asks a terrifying question about humanity. If we truly want freedom, why do we sell it so cheaply? At the very end, one of the characters says the whole problem with you folks' generation, nothing personal, is you believed in your revolution, put yourselves right out there for it, but you didn't understand much about the tube. The minute the tube got a hold of you folks, that was it. The whole alternative America, el dedo mito. This book suggests that all the conspiracy theories, all the violence, they're unnecessary. Once we get sucked into our televisions, it's over. Now, you might think that the movie ends in a much more hopeful place. After all, Willa and her dad are in this great place with their relationship. She is following in her mother's revolutionary footsteps. But I want you to think about the very last scene of this film, with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Bob, relaxing on the couch as his daughter leaves the house and turning on his brand new phone. I left this theater thinking, wow, PJ really, really didn't understand this book. And then I thought about that scene, and I said, holy cow, maybe he really, really did. I hope this video inspired you to check out this novel. Thomas Pynchon is one of the great American authors. This is one of his great novels, and it's also one of his more accessible novels, so it is a great place to start with this author. And also, if you like novels like this, check out my novel Chatterhat. I'll post a trailer here so you see what it's about. And thank you for watching.
His name is Bob, and he delivers the milk. He doesn't need the money, it's just something to do. One night, Bob hears a story about a mass shooting and a girl too good to be true. A story he can't let go. Next thing you know, Bob's doing a deep dive into the suburban weird. Along the way, he might encounter a cat-munching goat monster, a possibly mythical criminal mastermind, a half-faced man who's a whole lot of trouble, some curious neighbors, a mass typist, and the clues to a mystery Bob may lack the imagination to define, the courage to pursue, and the acuity to solve, assuming a solution exists. Have fun, Bob. Don't drop the milk.